Yes.
That's what Quincy used to do to me. When we were cutting the dude, Lukather's there early, and he's laughing. He's, JR, look what they did to your drums. I go, what are you talking about? I walk and look over.
You would just, like take away a ride cymbal?
No, he'd take away the whole damn kit.
Go. Let's go.
Welcome to the show. We got our first repeat guest of all time.
Ooh.
If you want to have a guest come for the second time, they got to be an iconic guest.
Oh, man.
They got to be Hall of Fame quality.
Oh, baby.
They got to have millions of albums sold.
Oh, yeah.
They got to have a new book all about their life.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show, John J.R. Robinson. Let's go, dude.
Yeah, I'm back, man.
We're here, man. I loved having you on the show the first time. Okay.
I'm gonna drink some jet fuel.
Yeah, here we go. Cheers.
Cheers.
First of all, if you didn't see our first interview with John J.R. Robinson, the most recorded drummer in the history of time, go back into the YouTube or the Spotify or the Apple, wherever you're listening to this early episode, and listen to that. We go deep into all of JR's work with Michael Jackson, Quincy Jones, Shaka Khan, I mean, honestly, I could just spend like 10 minutes listing names. So we already did that. So go back and listen to it. It's a fantastic episode. Lots of iconic shit. We go deep about the Rock With You, Drum Fill, how he wrote all this shit. But now what's so cool is John J.R. Robinson has a new book coming out October 1st.
Yes.
And it is appropriately called King of the Groove.
Oh, yeah, baby. Mm-hmm.
What's it like being the king?
Oh, well, I've had people comment on social about, Elvis was the king. I go, oh, okay. I go, Jesus was the king too, so, but it does say groove.
Yes.
So I can't really like walk around with a hat on, but I'm very honored.
Well, I can call you King of the Groove.
Thank you.
So, and I think you earned it. I mean, not to age you, but you're 50 years into your career.
Yeah, I know. That's a lot of backbeatitis.
But man, we all love your grooves. Like, I've been listening to you playing drums since I was young, and so love having you here. And I love talking with you, man, because you got all the stories.
Well, a lot, yeah.
You got all the stories, you got all the knowledge, and one thing I really want to touch on in this interview that I think will be very valuable to a lot of our listeners, since we have so many musicians and creatives of all kinds that listen to this show.
Right.
And something that I love talking about is entrepreneurship.
Yes.
And you go deep in this book about entrepreneurship, and I want to talk to you about that because not enough musicians realize that they are entrepreneurs. If you're a drummer, you're a producer, you're a guitar player, you're a songwriter, you're an engineer, you're a dancer, whatever you are,
right.
You are an entrepreneur. You are responsible for making your own income, growing your own brand, networking, balancing relationships, all of the things. So who better to talk to about entrepreneurship than you, with your incredible career that you've had that has just you've held it at the top for so damn long.
Yeah, it's interesting because I never even thought about it being competitive like that. Because when I was young and studied with AZOFF, he goes, no drummer's the best drummer, even though Buddy Rich is the best drummer.
I agree.
But he goes, you can't look at yourself as a man, I'm like Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs. You just which are the best. But as a drummer, you're being an entrepreneur. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Until maybe I guess when social kind of took over,
mm-hmm.
and we realized that with the record labels dwindling and consolidating and the record budgets kind of going south.
Yeah.
Who's going to take care of number one? So you have to look at yourself in the mirror and make those judgments.
Absolutely. Yeah, because today it is you and you alone, right?
Yes.
You got to get your gig. You got to build your socials. You got to find your next opportunity, even if you're on a big tour right now or any tour. You got steady work. You never know what's next. And
right.
even back even back in the day, I mean, I know you had such a pipeline going where you were just in the studio, boom, 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 tour, you know, like all the time on all the biggest hits, but you had to get to that and then hold it, right? Like, so even then, now, of course, the music industry is completely different.
Totally.
Completely different. But yeah, now the modern day drummer, guitar player, whatever you are, is the entrepreneur.
Right.
Like, so what are some key entrepreneur lessons that you've learned?
I've always used something from the, even, you know, years and years and years ago. When I first came to Los Angeles, I would look at a circle and, okay, you know, you look at all these degrees in a circle is 360. I would like try to go around that circle with artists or producers or engineers and just keep going. And if I could get around that circle and then repeat the circle, that means that I'm doing something correct.
Wow.
And if you think about that, one thing is, you know, a lot of us in this industry, which is a dog-eat-dog industry,
Mm-hmm.
you can't let that get to you, so you never burn a bridge.
Yeah.
We've all thought about it.
Yeah.
You know, we've thought about putting dynamite under it and you know, different things that happen. Or let's say you're a young drummer and there's 3 guys competing for the same job,
Yeah.
but you don't really know it. You don't really want to concern yourself with these other 2 guys. You just go in and be yourself.
Wow.
and do that. I mean, I could go on for hours about this. And these are things that my parents, Jack and Helen, kind of bestowed in me when I was a little boy about, you know, just normal fundamentals.
Yeah.
You know, my basketball coach used to say, John, why are you taking a step to the right to get to the bucket? Why don't you just go in a straight line? I go, duh.
I would love to understand the circle concept more. Could you give me an example, like use like maybe like Quincy Jones as an example of, so what is that? Like, what would make you move forward in the circle with a producer?
Once you worked with a producer and the producer calls you back,
Yep.
you've gone around the circle.
Got it.
But there's more to that. Let's say let's don't use Quincy because he is God.
Right.
Let's use just another producer that's maybe nameless,
Yeah.
but has had a hit record. And that producer may say, hey, you got to use JR on this thing. I think it'd be really, really good.
Yeah.
So the recommendation of the pavement you've laid
Yeah.
has I wouldn't say paid off, but done what it's supposed to do.
How do you balance kind of the pipeline of gigs to make sure that there is enough in the pipeline, or when there is so much in the pipeline, how do you handle the demand?
Well, it's interesting. Again, we're coming again from our last podcast, and we were coming out of COVID, which just totally wrecked everybody in the world. I mean, I'm going to talk United States about their routines, about their businesses. So now, cut to 4 years later, or wherever we are, and to balance things, I choose to create every morning in some aspect, whether it be finally through my producer Allison Mang, John, you should do a book.
Mm-hmm.
God, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, then all this energy goes into learning about that English class I missed.
Yeah.
and correct enunciations and using the right phrases and not swearing. So there are little things. Like now, I'm working on a 3rd record.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time since I've done a record, and my previous 2, I just did it kind of just to do it.
Yeah.
But now I'm making a conscious effort to do something. So, and I'm learning, upgrading the Mac, and I'm learning all this new technological stuff that still keeps me viable.
Yeah.
I've scored 3 films since I've seen you, or
Wow.
I think I did one in partial scoring, but things that you learn about that. You know, entrepreneur.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I mean, I think, and us as artists, because I know that you're very good at this, and for all you listening, look at what you are doing. I mean, you're not just playing drums. You're not just doing this. You're doing what I do. I have a new foundation called Music Through Arts, which will help young kids, dancers, musicians, artists in youth schools, grade schools, and high schools. Some, California's tough with the arts, so that's what I'm doing with that. I'm trying to always, and another thing, I'll take 10 fingers, and I may have talked about this before. Each one of these fingers represents something I should be doing. Mm-hmm. And I don't think fishing is on there. Gardening is. But, so I try to make sure that I'm doing something. And you also need that downtime. I have people ask me, man, you've played on all these things. And when you go home, what do you listen to? I go, well, if I have space in my brain left, I'll put on mainstream jazz. But generally, I'll shut the music off. Yeah. Because I need to recharge to then be an entrepreneur.
At what point did you feel like, I now understand this? Like, how many years into your career? Because I know for sure you were young when your career started. Right?
In Los Angeles, I was 23.
Yeah.
But it had started way before that.
Yeah, with Rufus and Shaka. And then you gotta once again not burn bridges. So you fuck up a lot when you're young, right? I remember I had a producer yell at me. I'll never forget when I was young. That made me turn around.
Like, what did he say? Because this might lead into something.
Okay, so the only time I've ever had a producer yell at me, I'll talk about it. It's fine. The producer was Joe Ciccarelli. I was like 25 years old. I thought I was hot shit. I was doing a bunch of my session player life had just started. Because before 25, I was doing all my own bands. So 15 to 25, I had like my punk bands and my metal bands, my jazz bands, and I was only doing my own like projects. Right. And then at 25, I started doing the hired gun thing, the major label thing. So one of my first, that year I had I was always in and out of the studio. I was like, oh, I got this. Okay, I'm doing this. And then I did a session with Joe Ciccarelli. And
he was producing or engineering?
He was producing and engineering because it's Joe. But he was definitely producing.
Okay.
He wanted me there all the time because I was getting a day rate. And, they had me locked out for like 14 days or something because he wanted to track the album live with the rhythm section in the band without the singer, without the artist. Everyone else wanted live. And I was like, it's, singer-songwriter music straight ahead. I was like, this is easy on drums. Like, I got this. I don't need to do 20 takes, like my takes are already there, man. And then like, if he wanted to overdub guitars, he wanted me to wait, even if that was 6 hours. Right. And I was like, I don't want to, I'm going to leave. Right. And then, so one time I actually left and I went and got dinner with a friend. I didn't even tell him. I was like, dude, he's going to be tracking guitars for 6 hours. I already played drums on this song. Like, come on. I was like, I'm on day 9 in the studio or something. And I had the wrong mentality. So I went and got dinner with my buddy and just left. And Joe wanted me to like overdub tambourine or something. And I wasn't there. He lost it on me when I came back. Like when I came back, he was like, I'm never hiring you again. So talk about not completing the circle. Right. Yeah. But he was like, who the f do you think you are? And I was like, who do you think you are? You're just keeping me here, using me. He's like, you're getting paid. Like, and it's funny, cut back or to go back to episode or the previous interview with you, you said something I'll never forget when you first started working with, when you were working with Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson, you cut the drums and you were like, yo, I want to stick around and just watch the process and learn. Right. And you asked Quincy, can I stay and watch the process? And he said, yeah. Right. And you just stayed there and learned and observed.
And I was a fly on the wall.
And it was a fly on the wall. Exactly. Just watching and learning. That's what I should have done.
Well, what? All right. So did you work again for Joe?
Nope.
Did you miss working for Joe?
I'll say yes, because, so I, once again, wrong mentality. I was like, man, I already did my shit. I don't need to be here. I played my drums. That's my job. I already did what I'm paid for. Let me go have dinner with a friend. I want to go hang. I was young and stupid when your mentality was, I want to get as deep as possible and learn all about these other things that aren't drums.
But that was Quincy Jones now.
Yeah, you are with Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson. So I would have probably done the same thing.
Hey, I have similar stories about Joe Ciccarelli.
But wait, I want to get to that. So just to finish answering your question.
I don't think we should spend a lot of time on him other than you.
Just to finish answering your question of, you asked me like, did I miss working with him? It was like, look, when you're an entrepreneur, you need as many gigs as possible until you have too many gigs. But getting to the point of too many gigs is really hard, and a lot of people never get there. So at that point, I was working all the time, but I wasn't I wasn't at too many gigs level. So did I miss working with him again? Yeah. I mean, why would I burn a bridge? I did.
Right.
That's like really the
And
only
did
bridge.
you really burn the bridge?
You know,
Because we just talked about that.
I didn't burn the bridge, and I apologized to him, and that was all fine. But he never called me again, as he said he wouldn't do. Right, and which I understand, and I understand why. And I actually saw him maybe 5 years ago, so like 10 years later, and gave me a big hug.
And he was cool.
It was fine. It was totally fine. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what's funny is that the guitar player was there overdubbing while you're chowing, and actually that. Why doesn't he just have the guitar player play the tambourine part?
it's a tambourine.
He would have corrected it anyway.
Yeah, for sure. So, anyways, yeah. So that was my learning lesson. And that was yeah. So but I successfully have not actually burned a bridge.
Right.
I have not really burned a bridge with anyone. Even Joe, I could text right now, or he could text me, and it'd be cool. He didn't call me again for another recording gig, but that's fine.
You know, when producers are wearing both those hats,
Yeah.
they do have a propensity to have a short fuse.
Yeah.
And because they're doing too much stuff. That's
Yeah.
why when I produce, I don't want to have anything to do with anything else than that. And a lot of times, you know, the limited production I've done, I'll hire another drummer.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to think about.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about that.
What are these 70 points or 70 things that you do before?
I don't know.
Before
I'm not going to
session?
read it, but let me just. This is an interesting. I don't even know where the hell this is. By the way, you guys, having a book, there's a lot of stuff in here. I mean, I can talk about, you know, when I ran away from home and crawled down the brick house and got back before my mother knew I was gone and stuff like that. But what got me thinking about these 70 points, and it could have been 100 and it could have been 10, of drumming and prep before right when I get on the drum throne on a live situation. Now, this could be applied to the studio, but I applied it to live. It was, you know, since I've been working with David Foster, and I'll sit there and, you know, nobody will be there, or maybe the cats are coming in, and I'm immediately looking at the entire drum set. So I came up with 70 points that run through my head right before the show or from rehearsal to the show.
Mm.
That's a lot of stuff. I mean, it goes from, oh no, the clutch is literally 1/16th note too low.
Yeah.
And I go, or the tech forgot to tighten the clutch really hard, and all of a sudden you play it and it goes, psh, like,
Bink. Yep.
Oh man. And so I get that going, and I go, okay, I'm checking the snare throw off. Are the snares too tight? Oh, did the slap clats fall off because we're playing in a humid southern environment?
Yeah.
That kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And then I'm now going boing. So, you know, all these different things. I'm checking my foot pedals. You know, I have the new Axis JR pedal now. And I'm checking everything. I'm checking wing nuts. Oh God, on the crash cymbals, if the wing nuts are loose, and I'm playing with sus mallets,
Yeah.
all I'm going to hear is, and then Foster will look at me like, what's wrong with you? You know, so if you look at in this book is made for everyone, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not a drummer's book.
Yeah.
But there are some incredibly great tidbits of knowledge from what I've learned and applied. And I know that when you sit behind the kit, for example, I'm going to be playing Catalina's as a guest star with David Garfield in its 50th anniversary. So I'm doing 6 songs or 7. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not on my drums.
Right.
I'm going, I don't think I'm going to employ these 70 bits here. I'm just going to go, shit, does the hi-hat work? And I don't know if I can play that.
Yeah. Is the throne at the right
Yeah,
time?
well, of course it's not going to be. I think I'm going to bring my own throne. So it's not just technical. It's also mental preparedness.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a drummer, because we are more than just a drummer.
Yeah.
We are running the show.
Yeah.
We are basically producing the show from the drum throne. And the singer can't do anything unless we're running the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, granted, like when I'm with David, by the way, I'm a little plug. By the time this airs, a couple of weeks later, we are playing his 75th birthday at the Hollywood Bowl.
Nice.
On November 3rd, and it's going to be quite extraordinary. But when I'm with these guys, I have purposely, I've been with him since '81.
Mm-hmm. That's
and
incredible.
live since '94. And so he and I are basically like brothers that sometimes used to yell at each other.
Yeah.
And now we're all huggy and kissy and
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
Because I think his son, is frustrated young little 3-year-old drummer loves me. But working with David has been it's almost like working with Quincy. And I've been very, very blessed to have both these great production bookends that believed in me. So it's always challenging still to this day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about getting the call back. How many times have you gotten the call back for 30 years with David Foster?
Well, and actually, and Vinny and I would juggle that at points too.
Yeah.
When David goes, JR, man, I'm just going to do a straight big band, so I'm going to call Vinny. I go, go ahead, call Vinny.
Yeah.
I go, even though I was in the Iowa Big Band when I was 16 and played with the Tommy Dorsey Ghost Band, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No ego there. So
yeah. And then with Quincy too, I mean, you completed the circle, man, so many times.
it was, well, and we probably talked about this in the previous podcast,
Yeah.
but, once he started producing Rufus,
Yeah.
my drums just stayed there.
Yeah. Wow.
At Alan Zent's studio, and we just kept rolling and rolling into the next record. And the next record, there's Ernie Watts, there's Patty Austin, there's all this stuff going. Another Quincy Jones record, and then it kept going. So I was truly blessed with that.
Man, and now 50 years later, so you got King of the Groove coming out, your book, and you have the foreword written by Quincy.
Oh, it just gives me chills.
Yeah.
Because it's not like I'm working for Quincy Jones and I'm coming in. It's like I am his brother.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
And family. And that's how magical that time frame started, with Jerry Hayes and the Rod Tempertons and the Patty Austins and the Michael Boddickers and Greg Fillinganes and Louis Johnsons and Hawk. And it just kept going. And we were all a familia.
Yeah.
And so, I'm glad he's still around.
Yeah.
And I will be forever indebted to his grace.
Yeah. Did you tell me about, did you ask him to do the foreword or?
Yeah. I mean, we went through the channels correctly. And, when I had done my Time Machine DVD with Don Lombardi, which we won DVD of the year, and that was his first DVD Don had ever done.
That's awesome.
We went in and interviewed Quincy. He was funny. He talked about stealing me from Rufus.
Yeah.
And I basically, in a nutshell, said, well, good job.
I fell in love with you the first time I heard you. And that's why I tried to steal you.
Well, mission accomplished.
I always think back to Shock and Rufus.
Oh, jeez.
That Hawk, it was the same year we did Off the Wall.
That's right.
Yeah, never forget it.
When I was a little kid and going to these jazz camps, I went, and there was one up in South Dakota, and I was from Southwest Iowa, kind of north of Kansas City and southwest of Des Moines, and I wanted to go to the Quincy Jones music camp.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was Rapid City or I don't know where the hell it was. And it was, it's like an 8-hour, 9-hour drive. And my dad said, no, I'm not driving you there. And how am I going to get there? Well, you're not going. So I was kind of pissed off. And I told Quincy that I couldn't go to your camp, and but it always was in my brain. And all of a sudden, we got put together.
Maybe you going to the camp would have blocked it from your whole future that did happen.
I know. He would have gone, God, this guy sucks.
He's the kid from the camp? Oh,
yeah. I mean, look at his long blonde hair. What is he doing? No, I'm kidding.
Who does he think he is?
Yeah. My producer, Ali Mang, is just such a sweetheart and written so many books and an entrepreneur of herself.
Yeah.
And she asked me about 2.5 years ago, have you ever thought about doing a book? And I said, well, it's crossed my mind, but I don't know anything about it. I don't know which way to go. I don't know. I researched people that want to publish. Do you sign with somebody? Do you do this? I don't know anything. I don't know about, how to organize chapters. I didn't know anything. And so Allie helped me get things organized, thought processes. It wasn't unlike when you're doing a record, but it's a lot more detailed in a sense. So I went and went to Staples and bought Post-its and markers and all sorts of stuff. And then in my control room, I had an idea. I go, okay, good as gold. Well, I remember Richard Perry saying that when I first moved to town. I go, oh, okay, that's cool. So I wrote it on a Post-it, wall. Then, I'm thinking about all these different things, beyond the sea, boom. George Benson stuff. Post-it. Pretty soon, a month later, the entire walls are covered with Post-its.
Wow.
So, and then I looked at Allie's room in Toronto, and hers was all done with Post-its. So then that was our beginning of our thought process.
Incredible.
So that was one thing. One other thing that Allie helped me do was she came up with a concept of writing down your favorite 10 words that, but out of a group that applies to you. Like leader, okay. All right, that goes in that group. Failure, well, that doesn't go in that group. So you pick these beautiful 10 words and then write an essay about yourself with those 10 words that were selected.
I love that exercise.
And then it was a total exercise.
Yeah.
Sounds like something you would have learned at 401 English or something. but
when there's actual context, it's different. It's different than when you're just like learning as a child compared to being like, I'm reflecting on my life and I'm gonna write a book about this.
And that's why, again, a key point is look in the mirror.
Wow.
Look at yourself in the mirror every single day, because we all have doubts.
Yeah.
We all have, there's all sorts of outside this world bullshit that's going on.
Absolutely.
And we just need to be ourselves, believe in yourself, and then these will come to fruition.
So what are, I guess, things that you wish you could have had for writing this book, since you didn't think about it until a couple years ago, compared to being along the journey? Is there any advice that you would give, maybe of like, oh, I wish I had done this?
Well, you know what? I mean, I've heard this story asked, or that question asked to actors, and for example, I was married twice. We talk about it in the book.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that if my sons have suffered pain from divorce or separation, and quite frankly, they got 2 Christmases, all of them.
Yeah.
So I guess one balances out the other, even though maybe it doesn't really. And I don't regret either of those 2 divorces,
Right.
or those marriages. I think they were both instrumental in getting me to understand who I am.
Yeah.
And there is something about wisdom.
Yeah.
And us being older now, and thank God I'm still in my 60s, but boy, this shit goes by quick. and that's why I don't listen to Norwegian speed metal.
I love Norwegian speed metal.
I just okay. Quincy would say, if you play that, don't play that shit. You're dancing too much.
You're dancing too much.
That was it. So I had another lesson learned. But
wait, Quincy would say that
to me
for metal?
No,
no, just if you're playing too much.
I just
overplaying.
Yeah, overplaying.
Wow,
you're dancing too much.
You're dancing.
JR, you're dancing too much. Or I don't give a shit what you're playing in your hi-hat. Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
But as far as directions and, for example, and we talked about this with Thriller.
Yeah.
Do I regret not playing on Thriller? Well, a lot of people think I am on Thriller.
Mm-hmm.
And quite frankly, there could be samples of me and or grooves on Thriller.
Mm-hmm.
But I chose, Thriller was booked for 2 weeks. I had it in my book.
Yeah.
And I chose, and I was being lured by Glenn Frey.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go out and play in a rock and roll band.
Yeah.
And so that's when I met Irving AZOFF.
Yeah.
So out of that came 10 other records
Yeah.
that created a different generation, a different direction, a different concept. And there's another thing I really don't talk about. I remember being in the Glenn Frey band and being with all these rock guys that are basically more simple players.
Yeah.
Whereas, I'm a jazz player basically by heart, but plays rock and roll and funk.
Absolutely.
And that's just what I am. I'm a bottom feeder.
Yeah.
And I remember us being like after shows and them messing with me and saying, talking about me and how, oh, you're one of those guys. And I'm thinking, how fucking racist and prejudiced is that?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, no, they're just doing it to get at me.
Oh, yeah.
And so I've kind of learned from that about, people and, their insecurities, which we talk about in this book.
What was it like working with Irving AZOFF back then?
Irving was great.
Yeah.
He was great. I mean, he introduced me to Norm Nixon. And, I asked Norm, I was still playing basketball in those days. I still had that fantasy about, walking onto the Lakers camp. And back in my healthy youth days, I could still slam. And
Yeah.
And I go, Norm, man, I want to play one-on-one with you. And he goes, oh, great. You probably want me to be in your videos too. And I go, well, yeah, I do. And I go, because honest to God, I think I could probably have taken him.
Wow.
But he introduced me to Cher and Norm, and Irving was great. He was always on the road with us because we were out with Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, that's incredible.
It was a completely different world.
You've had this passion for drumming for so long.
Yeah.
How do you stay inspired to play drums?
That's a great question. And I was actually thinking of being a teacher there and talking about the other kids, but let's talk about me for a sec. I mean, I started playing a little before 63.
Yeah.
As a young kid, and that inspiring thing was that things still reflect in me, like when you first smelled a drum. Or you took the head off and put your nose inside of a drum.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a guy that likes 1968 Chargers.
Yeah.
You're smelling that. I love the smell of this. Okay. And certain things retain through your whole career. I still, when I change a head, put my nose in a damn shell.
Yeah.
There's something special about it, especially these 1940s Slingerlands that I have at home that I love. But every time I try to get on the drums daily. I actually do. I mean, I'll walk by. That's why I keep the old Slingerland set in the foyer. I've found this Slingerland set since I saw it's just a 24, 13, 16, 7 beautiful black marine pearl 1940.
Nice.
And I mean, it's like driving a muscle car.
Yeah.
And every time I walk by it, I'm just and got the right cymbals up, and I go, she needs to be driven.
Yeah.
So I'll sit, and I don't invent. I mean, I don't try to falsify the first thing I play.
Yeah.
I just let it fall out.
Yeah.
And then I'll work on that. And then I start playing again, and that's really cool. And and since then, in my control room, we've done something with DW with what's called the DWEs. They're wireless drums.
Yeah.
Have you seen them?
I have. Yeah.
Have you played them?
I have played them. I've tried them. Yeah.
It's very interesting. I mean, there's so much stuff you got to dial into it.
Yeah.
And you can.
It's wild. It's getting really, really good too.
It is.
Yeah.
And I'm very pleased to have been one of their and still one of their artists. But they gave me a kit, and it was so big, I didn't have room in my control room for it. So we had put it in the garage. And then Jack and I, my son, who's just such a great drummer, Jack Robinson, and building his brand right now. Viper Room and all that stuff.
Awesome.
I'm just very proud of him.
That's awesome.
But we put long cables, but for headphones out into the garage. But I go, you know what? He's on vacation right now. I took them all, put them in my control room. So my control room is really tight. But I've been writing. It's good tool to have in your tool belt.
Yeah.
So we've been doing that. Again, another way to play. And then my main kit is in the main part of the studio. And it sounds better than Capitol. God bless Capitol's soul. And I just try to stay inspired. That's why I organized SRT with Sinowick, me, and Mitch Town, which is a kind of a funky jazz trio, no bass.
Yeah.
And that's it keeps me light with my thinking. It allows me to remember Philly, Joe, and Tony, and Elvin, and the way those guys played, and that's how I used to play when I was in college. So I just am grateful. Thinking about that is Roy Haynes just turned 99 and can still play well.
Yeah, it's incredible.
That's our goal.
You never stop.
You never stop.
You never stop.
And you know, I mean, if you got to start, you know, schlepping your own drums, it's a little bit of a problem at that age.
Hopefully afford a tech. Hopefully.
I don't. Well, you know how many gigs I do where John Oreznik makes more than me.
yeah, for sure. Those are investment gigs.
Yeah. Anyway,
It's not. I'd rather not make money tonight than carry my own drums.
that's the way it always is.
Yeah.
And when you're working in LA.
Yeah, for sure. That's inspiring for me to hear because ever since COVID, for the first time ever in my life, I kind of lost my relationship with my drums. Like, from being 10 years old until whatever 35 or something, I played hours a day, every day. Like, always wanted to, even just for fun, or would have people come over and jam or whatever. And then when COVID hit, being alone, I was like, I lost my inspiration to play, and then I lost the momentum, and then I had to, at the time, save Jam Card because COVID, like, businesses were falling apart, right? So put all my energy into doing that, didn't play drums at all, successfully did that. And then now I've still just been focused on business and like still playing drums here and there. Like if there's a jam, I play at it, but like, you know, I'm touching my drums once every 2 months, like compared to every day. So I just recently now, like, we were just talking with Terrace Martin before we got on the mic, right? Yeah. Terrace called and we were talking. And so like Terrace and I, he was like, I want to do a project with you, a music project. So I'm like, all right, cool. That's got me touching my drums again. I just set them up again. But I think something that you said that resonates with me is you put the drums in the foyer and you put like a really sexy kit, you know, one that you look at and you're like, oh yeah. Like,
oh, she's hot.
Yeah. I want to play that.
She is hot.
So I just set up a kit again in my house and like cleaned up the whole room around it too. Cause you don't want to play on a kit when the room is messy or there's like boxes, you know, whatever. So,
or maybe you do.
It depends how filthy you are, but,
yeah, but you know, the inspiration of that is, let's look at the converse of that. The whole kit, you're setting it up. Yeah. Doesn't have to be the whole kit. Right. How about just a kick, snare, and a hat and a ride? Yes. And sometimes get rid of the ride cymbal. Yes. That's what Quincy used to do to me. He would with me so hard without asking me permission.
He would just like take away a ride cymbal?
No, he'd take away the whole damn kit. Like when we were cutting the Dude, David Williams had split and gone with Jackson's Then Madonna. So we needed a guitar player. So Lukather got the gig. So Lukather was our guitar player. And, you know, between Abe Sr. playing bass and Greg
Fillinganes.
And it was a Monday and they set me up and I'm all, you know, what the gobos are around. Yeah. And I got to, you know, 4 toms and it's, oh yeah, man, sounds great. Swedine's on fire. We're done. It's 5:30. Bye. See you guys tomorrow at 11. Okay, cool. Come back next day. And Lukather is there early, which I'm totally shocked. And he's laughing. He's, JR, look what they did to your drums. I go, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? You know, like a little boy. And I walk and look over. And they're all gone, except for a kick, a snare, a hi-hat. And that was it. And I'm thinking, what the f? And I walk in. Bruce Swedine, big Bruce, comes out. He goes, hey. I didn't even say anything. He goes, Quincy doesn't want any fills on this record. And turned around and walked away. And I'm going, yes, sir. Hence, 4 Grammys or 5 Grammys?
Wow.
So lesson learned is that inspiration, sometimes you can get it from playing on your legs. Yeah. And coming up with some sort of a thing. Sometimes, you know, I'll play on tops of bottles to get a weird sound. When I was just in Asia, I walked in, I think I was in Indonesia, and they have like one of those hand drying machines. Yeah. And I put my hand in it with, whoosh, bingo. And I go, okay, this is so stupid. It's so funky. Right. So it was inspiration.
That's amazing.
So use anything around the house.
Yeah, because you'll play different when you show up and Quincy's got rid of your toms and your cymbals besides your hi-hat. You'll play different when he plays you the record.
It worked out well.
Wow.
It worked out well. But I was, towards the later years of us recording with Quincy, I managed to sneak some more drums back in.
Yeah, he started trusting you again. Oh, so the kick snare hat lasted for a few albums or something?
Yeah.
Wow, I don't. Of all albums, to not have any fills.
Well, I mean,
or like,
I know Karita.
Yeah.
I talked him into doing a shitload of overdubs. So.
nice. You're like, I send him back up, please.
Yeah.
God, that must have been an incredible album to work on, the dude. Wow.
It
With
was
that band.
It was heaven.
Yeah. What is it? I mean, how do you feel like to go back to those days, right? And you look around, and it's like you and there's Steve Lukather's on guitar, and Phil Gaines is on keys, and Abe Senior's on bass,
And Jerry's in the room, and Larry Williams. All these cats are there.
and Quincy's in the control room, and
And God,
do you feel like the USA Olympics like basketball team?
it was the dream team.
It's the dream team.
It was a dream team.
Yeah.
And
Did you realize it at the time?
That's a tough question. I think not, because if you start getting, I don't think that there was. I mean, I'm sure that Jerry and Rod realized it, but we all conversed at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think that changed the face of the music industry, was that conversion.
Yeah.
And if one were to start thinking about the momentum that you're exhibiting every day in the session, it becomes egotistical.
Yeah, for sure.
And we were not that way.
Yeah. It's crazy because all of you have gone on to make such massive impacts in music,
Yeah.
both together and individually.
I mean, with Rod, God bless Rod. I ended up, Rod would be funny because he'd come in every day, because I knew him from 78 with Heatwave used to open up for Rufus.
Wow.
And actually in 77 they did. And he'd look at me, and I was, had this blonde hair and blue eyes. He just, he's Rod, and he looked at me and goes, geez. Like, he's looking at me like, oh, and you look like that. And I'm thinking, what the fuck are you talking about? But I would get all these records. I would get Herbie Hancock records, and friggin' Carpenters, and Karen Carpenter, and it just kept going. There were so many damn records, right? Yamo Be There, and it just kept going, and it was good. We had a good team.
What was one of your favorite projects you worked on with Rod?
Well, Rock With You, of course, was the greatest. But oh gosh, I mean, working with Herbie, because Herbie, like, well, shit, I need to get on this train. Light Me Up, and then what was the other song? Magic Number and stuff. And I'm thinking, man, I'm going to work with Herbie Hancock, man. I'm thinking, I get to follow in Harvey Mason's footsteps and play some really hip shit and be able to use my Berkeley talents. And no, they wanted me to play these funk, straight, hip grooves so Herbie can have all his programming shit done, but they were all hits.
Wow.
So I go, but I ended up, Herbie and I are very close, so that worked out well.
Wait, what album was that?
Called Light Me Up was one, and then the other one was, I think, called Magic Numbers.
And were you just laying down drums and then
No.
Herbie was programming on top of it? Or was it live? Was he playing that live?
In the early days, we went up with David Rubinson to, not Fantasy, Automat. Boy, I'm
I don't even know
dating
that.
myself.
Yeah.
In San Francisco, called the Automat, and that's where David Rubinson owned, and he was Herbie's producer.
Yeah.
And we walked, and Freddie Washington and I got on a plane and went up, and we go, we're going to play with Herbie, man. We're going to play with Herbie. And, it would have been, Freddie's ridiculous. He played on That's What Friends Are For with me. And so we get in there, and this giant, huge keyboard museum was all plugged in and set up, run by a LINN drum machine. I'm going, oh, and I can see him hit and play, and then nothing's working. I'm getting the drum sounds. Freddie's got his bass. You guys take an hour. It's not working. And Freddie and I are going, shit, Herbie, why can't we just play? No, I have to. You guys are going to play with these tracks once it goes. So it finally went. But we were a bit frustrated with that.
So you were playing on top of a LINN drum? Or a side of LINN drum?
The LINN drum was, I don't know, he had other sequencers too.
Wow.
Everything was programmed, and he may have been playing at the same time.
Because Herbie was, pioneering with these instruments. And
That is correct.
Maximizing
And that
them.
was way before the robot thing
way before
that we did.
he was challenging.
And it wasn't working.
Yeah.
And I go, you know what? Take that LINN drum machine and throw it from a 3-story building and let me get a shotgun mic and sample it.
Okay, wait a sec. So how did you feel with being one of the top, if not the top, session drummer at the time?
It's coming.
And then drum machines come.
I embraced it because that's why I still run a studio now.
Yeah.
It's like a tool belt, a tool, you have a tool belt and this is one of your tools.
Yeah.
It's a hammer.
You never felt intimidated or threatened
Never.
by drum machines?
Never. And there's,
great.
I know we're veering from our book, but
But this is important.
it's totally important. And Rufus was rehearsing at Danny Serafin's house in Westlake Village in 78. And there's a knock on the door, and Danny's gal or something opens the door, and it's Roger Lynn.
Wow.
And I had not met, maybe I had met him, and he comes in with a little compact 64 and a cassette player with a cable, and I think a little keyboard. And he goes, John and Danny, look, you gotta look at this shit. He sets it up and he hits like G, boom, or whatever the hell. And I'm going, oh shit. And you can see it happen. And he goes, boom, popped, boom. I go, oh boy. And Danny, of course, he looked like he was a deer in the headlights at that point.
Yeah.
And I love Danny dearly. But I'm going, okay, all right. So then a year later, the LM1 came out.
Wow.
And-
You saw the beginnings of the drum machine and the LINN drum.
Yeah.
The
And-
very first,
and-
before it even came out, LINN drum.
And potentially Roger lifting drummers' samples.
Wow.
Let's just leave it at that.
No, let's not. Let's dive into that.
I can't wait for the check to come.
It was your samples?
Well, I know there were Jeff's, and I think some of Peter's,
Wow.
and we're not.
Wait, Peter, Jeff
Erskine.
Peter Erskine and Jeff Picaro? Wow.
And then others,
Wow.
and
We're in the LINN drum with the samples of the LINN drum.
yes.
Wow.
So that happened, and what I chose to do is not do anything associated with Lynn.
Yeah.
So I went to Oberheim. I went that direction, an emulator. And so I built all my whole studio on other kinds of gear.
Incredible.
For example, like Bad, when I programmed that before I went in, I used an SP12 drum machine and then controlled my studio with the sequencers and then brought those parts in and then laid those down. But it wasn't an LM1.
Wait, what? That's how you programmed all that?
Yeah. I programmed it all with an SP12.
Can we talk about programming Bad, please? Tell me again about this.
I had a studio in Agora Hills, and I was using an MX80 2-inch Otari multi-track.
Yeah.
I had a friggin' AMEC console the size of this room, and all this stuff, and all my synthesizers and stuff, because I was always a keyboard player.
Yeah.
And, trying to be Michael Boddicker and Steve Picaro and Greg, and it's like just really no bueno there. But
They're already
doing
doing it, JR.
I know. Well, when I see these pictures of Steve Picaro in that room, patching, I'm like, geez, him and, scientists. But so Quincy and I had a discussion about, all right, you're going to be playing on these songs, and I want you to, I go, why don't I just program things I think should be on these records, and we'll bring them in on multi-track, and then Bruce will transfer them, and you're going to use them or not. So one thing that did stick was the intro to The Way You Make Me Feel. So if you listen to that, and it's really short machine SP12s.
Wow.
And so then I came in and overdubbed. We laid all the whatever parts I brought in, and then I laid down real drums. Those days it was Yamaha and Zildjian, and laid down just
Over the top of it.
over the whole top of it.
Wow.
And I had to play it perfectly.
And so you had done the programming on your own and then brought it to Quincy?
Correct.
And do you remember what Quincy's reaction was to hearing it?
I think he was really glad that he had all these guys in these driver's seats.
Yeah.
I mean, he had Larry Williams camped out in one studio programming and helping with Jerry with horns. He had Jerry in this studio. He had Greg in this studio doing shit. It was pretty impressive.
The dream team.
It was the dream team.
But you didn't even really know.
That
one you knew.
I think by then, listen, when Michael told us we were not allowed in Bubbles' room, I think figured that maybe in a little thing there.
Oh, Bubbles was the monkey?
Yeah, I don't think we should go down that road, but we weren't allowed to go in his room.
Was this at Ocean Way?
No, it was at Westlake D.
Oh, Westlake D. Because didn't Ocean Way, didn't Michael have a bathroom made specifically for Bubbles right next to Studio B?
That I don't know. Well, that could have been, but in Westlake D, you go up to that stairs in the back, and he had his own room.
Bubbles had a room.
Yeah, I think Bubbles was up there with a hat and a cigar, like watching us overdub.
Oh my God, dude!
Hey, I don't like that Larry Williams chord he just played. Somebody just tell Studio E that Larry's playing the wrong voicings.
Would the monkey come into the never stayed in like the lounge?
Never
stayed in his private lounge.
Yeah,
and you can't go into Bubbles' room.
No. And I'm thinking, I don't really want to go into Bubbles' room.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
He's going to tear my face off.
Yeah, you don't know what that monkey's going to do.
Well, let's just move on.
Oh, shit.
We're drifting, and it's like, pretty soon let's get some tequila.
Yeah, I know. We could do that at 11 a.m. on this tequila. Wow, man. It's cool. Well, this is more reason why everyone needs to read the book, because I know there's...
Well, I don't know if there's a bubble story. There could be a bubble story in there, but
he already forgot what's in the book. So,
well, let me just let's revisit. I know there's probably other questions that you want to nail here, but the point of doing the book was, sometimes artists wait too long.
Yeah.
Like my good friend director Danny Gold, who just did the Blake Edwards story, just phenomenal job.
Yeah.
Blake Edwards mentions. He wanted to be around to see his life in front of him on film. And I think that's part of my goal also.
Yeah.
Is that if you get beyond your years and not cognizant of what's going on, then you don't really have a say or maybe an appreciation and a respect for your own self.
Absolutely.
And it's all about respecting yourself. Don't be egotistical about it.
Yeah.
And I say, things like look in the mirror and believe in yourself and not everything will come at once.
Yeah.
Things do take time to mature as you're finding out.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, I want to revisit my drums again.
Yeah.
And I'm sure with revisiting your drums might revisit other parts of that musicality.
Absolutely. And like, it's interesting after stepping away from the drums, but still being so, surrounded by music and people that inspire me in music and listening and being in the studio and watching others and stuff like
right.
I hear me coming back to the drums and I'm like, oh, I'm actually better in some ways.
Right.
Yeah. I don't have as fast chops, I can't swing as hard, but like, or as fast.
You'd be surprised.
But, yeah.
And chops. And there's another thing, I've been watching TikTok and Instagram, and all these drummers that are on these platforms are playing so much that I don't quite know how they're going to get hired.
Yeah.
Because if they did get a gig, it's going to be, backing up a singer.
Absolutely.
Mostly,
Yeah.
and they're going to be frustrated.
Yeah.
Chops are essential.
Yeah.
But I compare that with watching a Rodney Dangerfield monologue, because he's going to pull out a joke from this compartment and change the subject, but plug it into this.
Yeah.
And that's what drummers do.
I love that. Can we talk about JR Coach's Corner?
Oh, gosh, yes.
I love this, dude.
Well, you can go ahead. Let's drill.
Can I drill? Can I read it and ask you questions and pick it apart?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is from JR Coach's Corner. It's kind of funny for me to read it in front of you.
That's fine. I don't think I have it memorized. So,
Well, when you do the audiobook,
which
if you want me to,
I might.
if you want me to read it, I can narrate it.
You do have that voice, but now you have to talk about like, well, never mind. We'll leave her out of it. Okay, go.
But there's no better voice than your voice, actually. Come
No,
on now.
That's
You're pretty good voice for a drummer.
ah.
So, okay, so this is JR Coach's Corner. If I could give just one piece of advice, it would be this. Make it a priority to fall in love with what you are doing with your life. No one thing or person will ever validate you as much as this one goal will. It will increase your confidence by opening your mind to see what is available and possible for you, and will motivate you to drive yourself and dreams forward. I am still inspired by my past mentors as well as young artists and musicians because they are curious to explore new vantage points that keep inspiring me to continue to innovate and create more.
Yeah. Wow. I'm glad you read that.
Oh, this is my audition for your audiobook. All right.
Well, we've got that, and Christian will take that as a sample.
Yeah, this is the sample on Audible. Okay, to continue, last paragraph.
Yeah.
Success is not about what you have. It is about who you have become.
Yes.
Man, success is often confused with winning and the accolades it comes with. Failure is often wrongly equated with losing. This is tunnel vision thinking. Success is based on outlined expectations that keep you focused on making the best possible decisions to move you forward. Failure acts as the building blocks of education and insight, thus supporting sustained success. They work in concert with each other. This is a nuanced thinking process, not a black and white measurement. Understanding the intentions behind your actions is a strong predictor of the outcome.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's not a drummer's book. But it's
More than just drummers.
This is a book for everybody.
Yeah.
And you need to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Everybody goes through depression.
Yeah.
Because we're humans. We all get depressed, you have to then look, and unless God forbid, you're very ill and you can't control your illness, there's still very much inspiration from people that are in that way. But everybody has to believe in what they love of themselves. That's why I always say fall in love with what you want to do, with what you believe in. I have a lot of people that it's like, from my old town of Creston, Iowa, said, well, I used to go by your house and just hear you playing drums every day, all the time, and blah, blah, blah. And you're very lucky to have picked a career that you like. Well, why can't everybody pick a career that they like?
Yeah.
Are we under some sort of a giant handcuff that we can't? I don't know. Did I pick the career or did the career pick me?
So there's two things about that. So there's picking a career that you like, but then there's also earning the career that you like. Because you could have been like, I picked drums, but then not actually made income or enough income, right? You had to earn that. You had to put in all the work possible. It's really hard to make a living playing drums. There's a ton of other drummers.
Well, now they're breeding like rabbits. Yes,
for sure. But even back then, how do you get discovered? How do you, whatever the obstacles were when you were trying to make it.
Well, it's like I was moving to New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I probably told you that.
But that's a sacrifice. That's a choice.
And then I realized I'm not going to do well in New York. So anyway, that was just one aspect. But I'd never ever associated it with, like you say, earn.
Yeah.
I don't think you put the value of the word earn equals money.
Right.
Earn equals reputation and longevity.
Yeah. Which equals money. Because well, in order for you to have it be a profession, you got to make money.
Well,
in order for you to not have another job, unless you're, inherited a bunch of money and you're a very lucky person for that, cool, go be a drummer and support yourself doing that. But for most of us, right, you got to earn the profession. You got to turn it into a profession. So having it be something that you love so much, so therefore you do it all the time, and that's why you're choosing to do it, because you love it. And then you could say, yeah, hopefully it becomes a career, or you can make it become a career. Go as hard as physically possible until it is your career. And for some people, maybe that is like a year later you get lucky. Maybe it's 10 or 20 years later you finally earned it, whatever it is, depending on your situation, right? Maybe you're watching this and you live in Turkey, right? Or something, and it's like, wow, it's much harder for that person to make it versus someone born in Los Angeles.
Right, because there's an idealism about pop music and North American music.
Right.
So I mean, use that as an example. And I'm in Turkey. I'm going to play the belly dance festival every 3 weeks.
For sure. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It depends once again what your goals are and where you are and what your circumstances are. But if you want to make it in whatever you're doing, you got to fall in love with it, and you got to earn it. You got to go so hard that you stand out, and like, it's clear that you deserve money for it.
Yeah. I still never, I mean, we all worry about money, but that word is on the outside of my circle.
Yeah.
And I'm because I have faith. But I'm just going to talk about my youngest son, Jack Robinson, for a sec, because that exact same concept, I'm what's the word? Just trying to educate him.
Yeah.
He is a great drummer.
Nice.
He's 23, right when I hit in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he thinks of that. I'm sure it's probably crossed his mind. He doesn't play like Vinny.
Yeah.
He plays a little bit like me, and he's got a great time.
Nice.
And he's been playing the Viper Room and the Mint and
doing the LA circuit, the club circuit.
Yeah, for no dough.
Yeah, yeah.
And Holland is an essential shit down there, and playing, and sometimes is with singers and other times with these guys. So he's playing, I think, coming up on the 17th. I don't know if it's the Viper Room or I don't know where he's playing, but I'm going to go.
Yeah.
But the point that I made with him, I go, you've been playing drums since you could crawl.
Yeah.
And you're also a very good keyboard player and you're a very good bass player, but drums you're very good at. And now is the time for you to understand social media, realize that it's here to stay.
Yeah.
Capitalize, not necessarily monetarily, but capitalize on getting your brand, building a brand.
Yes.
Because that's kind of what it is today.
Yes.
We don't have record labels.
Yeah.
And so for the young kids, so he is now doing that and building it more and more. And I started saying, have you been putting pictures up? And like, you playing drums? And you go, no. Okay. So now he's starting to do it.
Yeah.
So he is not getting his ass wiped by me.
Yeah. Good.
I'm not, if I do hear him screwing up on something, I'll say, I can hear your sticking from the other room is wrong.
Yeah.
But then I'm hearing him play shit that I can't even play.
Yeah.
So again, that's a lesson for all these young aspiring drummers or musicians.
Yeah.
That we are musicians, by the way.
Oh yeah. Sometimes.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go. Going back to the coach's corner.
Yeah.
These are words that didn't come easily, but they came naturally.
Yes.
And for me to invest in my emotion into a book that's, sure, it's about me and my career and my experiences, and like when when my mother would ground me and I would climb down the side of the brick house, every other thing, out of the guest bedroom and escape for 3 hours and then come back before she knew I was gone. There's a little story about that in there, just little fun things but it's, it has something for everyone in every field.
Yeah. How do you manage difficult sections when playing live?
So you're saying, okay, we have a form of this song. Mm-hmm. And in your brain, because you've rehearsed it, that this B or C or other section re-interlude is potentially a train wreck in your brain. So you've already set up in your brain that you're going to fuck up.
Wow. Yeah.
So what you have to do is then, okay, I've set that up that I could make a mistake. So now you're going to make a new group of, you know that that's coming in 4 bars, whether you're reading or you have a little form chart or you're no chart at all. You know it's going to come up. So what do? Is there some sort of a drum fill that you possibly have implemented at that spot where the singer doesn't dig it, or the singer really wants it, or the guitar player is playing something that you felt that you had to put a fill there, but you picked it up in rehearsal? Well, here's what I used to do. If there's something coming up, I would automatically program in my brain the form that there's 4.5 bars. It's 4 bars and a 2/4 bar.
Yeah.
What do I do with that 2/4 bar? Am I going to play some sort of an ungodly fill that leads me back into the B section? Or do I just not play anything?
Yeah.
Or do I just simplify that 4-bar section? So instead of like, oh shit, I always have to ramp up. The drums have to always go forward and bigger. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
Less is more. Sometimes when you don't play anything or change it, that's why reggae is kind of hip.
Yeah.
Where, things are 2 and 4-ish. And there's all this whole other movement, or Cuban music, which is really not North American drum oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And because it was never written that way. But so, again, going back to Rodney, you compartmentalize this joke and put it into this form.
Yeah.
So as a drummer, you know that there's an intro. Well, hopefully, in my days we had intros, hence intros. But
hence my intros.
Well, thank you. But, I did learn from the masters.
Yeah.
And, so that there's going to be, we're talking kind of contemporary forms. Even a Herbie Hancock advanced jazz tune, it's still AABA.
Yeah.
But it depends how, you phrase it. In pop music, rock music, and R&B music, it's quite staunch.
Yeah.
And I used to think about getting away with something to sneak a style in. So I would theoretically invent that. And then, Quincy finally says, you're dancing too much again. Yeah. So then you go, all right, that sucked. So I'm not going to do that. So you just, you know your form, and when it comes, if it's being recorded and you screw up, make it the biggest fucking mistake ever and plow right through it, like an offensive line.
Yeah.
But then when you do it again, you know what you did.
Wow. So I heard a rumor that Slingerland is coming back.
What? Oh my God. How do these rumors start?
What's going on? Can you confirm anything?
Well, being a loyal DWist, and my first drum endorsement, thanks to Danny Serafin, was Slingerland.
Wow.
In the late 70s, 78. And in those days, Slingerland was kind of bordering on not that great. And as a matter of fact, we were playing the Chicago Music Festival with Rufus and Shaka Khan, and the rain blew right in. We were on the Navy Pier. Rain blew right in on us. We're soaked. And the next day, Bear, my tech, goes, JR, man, your floor tom's man. It's like warped like a mofo. And I go, oh, I don't know what we're going to do. We're in Chicago. Can we get another one? So it was my first endorsement. I mean, I had Dave Samuel's 61 Slingerland set, my teacher. He goes, you want it? I go, I'll take it, yeah.
Yes.
Blah, blah. My high school snare drums with non-Kevlar heads were all Slingerlands, even though my first kit was a Ludwig. So I'm just setting this up. So years ago, 4 or 5, Chris Lombardi, Don's son, bought Slingerland, the rights to Slingerland for Don for his birthday.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, God, what a gift. It's
Yeah.
just like the hippest gift ever. And in the back of my mind, I was always thinking, even before this happened, what would happen if Slingerland were to come back? And they tried to come back. I think it was under Fender or somebody. I don't know when it was, 10 years ago.
Right.
It was a fail. And when this happened, I realized, well, my connection with DW is really strong. And, DW has since moved Gretsch over to Geva in Germany. And so that's not under the umbrella anymore. And so I guess I can tell this is I have been working with Don and John Good and Steve Vega and Rich developing and helping beta test brand new Slingerland drums. And they're not like a brand new drum. They're basically going to be like they were in the 50s.
Yes.
And 3-plies or 5-plies with a surprise next year. And me working with the drums means that I'm personalizing. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
A particular model.
Yes.
And that's kind of all I can say at this point.
Ooh.
It's a major, major tease. And I have to tell you, what I played last week, I went up there and played the first prototype set. It blew my ass away. I was like, oh shit, I forgot what it's, and with 3-ply shells, DW drums are like driving a McLaren.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're perfect. You can drive it at high speeds. You can do whatever you want. You can probably drop it off it's fine. It's like a Shure SM57. And, but these drums, what I played, I think at this point in my career, assuming it is coming out, would probably, as I am not under the DW umbrella, but it's a completely separate brand. It's Slingerland. And I think that this, when and if they do come out, will be under the great art of what we grew up with.
Yes. That's so exciting. I need that.
Yeah, I think if and when they come out, I think the entire world is going to be awakened.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, that's going to be inspiring, and maybe the kit that ends up in my foyer.
Well, see, there you go. And interestingly enough, this point in my career,
Yeah.
what, God willing, I have left, hopefully it's 20 years. I pray to God, I want that to, my sounds are altering.
Yeah.
I went through the friggin', my Gretsch days in the 70s.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Then went with Slinger, and then went with Yamaha for 30 years.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was in Pearl there for a second, had beautiful times with Frampton.
Yeah.
And then joined with DW. So now, my sounds and concepts are growing.
Yes.
I'm just going to plant that.
Oh, man, I love it. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, me too.
Talk about entrepreneurship via drumming.
Oh my, whoa. Wait, I think I need to do an amendment here.
The book is delayed. We're going to amend it.
Geez. So we've already delayed enough. All right.
Oh, man. Is there any other important entrepreneur lessons or tips that you would give to the musician watching?
Don't ever sleep with the lead singer.
That is actually an incredible tip that you must follow.
Listen,
I've watched that blow up so many projects.
I've watched it blow up so many drummers.
Wow. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
or any instrument that does it.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a reason why guitar players are in front of us. They're kind of like the part of the line in football.
They're the pawns that are
the pawns that get sacrificed. Right out of the gates
by the lead singer.
It's so true. Phil Collins, I guess, had it right though. He says, "This shit, I'm going to come up and just do what I want up here."
Yeah, exactly.
God bless him. And but that's actually a serious statement what I just made, because we've seen that. I've worked with some of the greatest and most gorgeous females of the last 40, 50 years, and I just actually did 5 new songs with Barbara Streisand.
Amazing.
2 weeks ago with Leland.
That's
and
awesome.
I'm going, she lives. You know, I mean, you know, she kind of blew up our orchestra in 2014 and went with synths, which was just wrong.
Well, she's back
Absolutely
now.
wrong. She's back, but this is a lot like Ed Sheeran
Yeah.
and Kelly Clarkson, and they're all going to be hit records. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, this is kind of, she's singing her ass off. But, you know, when I first started working with Whitney and I look, I go, okay. You know, you think about it, you're looking at her and she's just a little 18-year-old hot model.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, and she doesn't intend to be hot.
Right.
You know, or Shaka or Diana or Stevie Nicks. And
Yeah.
I can keep going down the line. And so that was a very interesting point. I know it's a little self-serving, that
Don't
point.
sleep with the singer, people.
Yeah, I was going to use the word but
Yeah,
but
don't
but
do that
yeah,
either.
well, yeah, but you know, I think it's important. You know, so get along with your band and learn how to bend. I have a whole section in this book on bass players, which, if it wasn't for bass players, I wouldn't be who I am today. And I know that there's probably 10 or so I've forgotten, but I tried to go back to the very first days of my bands when I was 10. Of every single, matter of fact, I didn't have a bass player when we were 10 because nobody could afford a bass, and nobody knew how to play bass in those days when I was 10. But I talk about bass players all the time. For example, I've been doing Stanley's new record,
Yeah.
and you know
Stanley Clarke.
I've done probably I don't know 6 or 7 of his albums. Plus, I was in Clark Duke,
Yeah.
and Stanley's record we just recut Silly Putty.
Wow.
And I'm going, well, you're going back and reaching in there. And so I go, what do I do that it wasn't originally done? And so I did it. And he actually just called me yesterday, and you know, we'll talk about my book launch at the end here, but he's going to be one of our guests calling in.
That's awesome.
And he and I, during COVID, wrote this rock tune. And it was like 174 BPM. And I'm like, it's like a Police vibe. And I just, you know, I'm angry, and I probably have a broken leg at that point. And I played this shit and then sent him the files. And then mysteriously they get, you know, in Stanley world, get lost. Or then he finally found them, and he had a guitar player on him. I go, right, send him back. So this thing, you never know. It could turn into something. I mean, he's out finishing his tours now and with his jazz group. And
Amazing.
And, you know, because he and I have always had this vision of, you know, more of a rock thing.
Yes.
And, yeah, you just never know what happened on that. But the bass player, just real quickly in the book, was from every bass player that I remember instances, a few bad. Like certain bass players go unnamed that when I'm listening on the headphones, I can't hear the drums. And so I tell the engineer I need less of this guy, but the guy's so egotistically inclined that he has to have more of himself. So hence why I used to get to the studio even an hour earlier to set up a separate cue.
Wow.
But generally the bass players like Bobby Watson, rock with you from Rufus, or Willie Weeks from David Lee Roth with me. Very similar bass players. Willie plays a little bit more definitive with his consistency, whereas Bobby is a little bit more melodic, but very similar bass players, how they affected me and my right foot and what is going to be definitive on that record.
Yeah.
You know, and you kind of brought this up. When I first hear a song, when I first hear it, whether I'm in the studio, let's just use the studio, they play a demo, and I immediately memorize it in my brain. It's already put in the compartments it needs to be in. And then I'll approach it. If there's a chart, I'll listen to it and what they have intended for the drum part. I'll say, that's really good there. Maybe that, or I'll change that note. Or here, stop. I'm not going to play what they play. This is bullshit.
Yeah.
Or okay, and then by the third time, I'm ready to go out and start putting in sounds. Am I going to use these little small hi-hats? Am I going to use this? Am I going to tune the bass drum up? Am I going to muffle the bass drum? Am I going to use a piccolo snare or a big fat 8-inch? Boom, boom, boom. Okay. And then, by then the guitar player's figuring out what he's playing. So theoretically, we've got our part by take 3. Theoretically. But what I've really learned about this is patience, about just because you've got your part. And I know the great late Jeff Beccaro used to get his part quick. And Dean Park set me aside and said, you need to really be very patient and let the other cats work their shit out.
Yeah.
And then once that happens, then your part changes.
Yeah.
Even though it may not totally. There are little subtleties that
Yeah.
you realize, oh shit, I always also look at when I've finished a track, if I'm hearing myself over the music, then you're wrong. Drums are not as important as we think they are. They just make people move their asses.
Yeah.
In a lot of good ways. But you need to be as musical and melodic as possible when you're playing with a band.
I love it, man. I love it, man. Well, King of the Groove, the book, October 1st.
It is October 1st. Actually, it's not today, but we're going to have a special offer for all you listeners.
Let's go.
And there'll be a QR code on the screen.
Yep.
And for everybody that buys a book, which there'll be a link to the book through either kingofthegroove.com or Amazon or johnjrobinson.com, which you'll put up.
Oh, yeah.
There'll be a donation going to the charity fund called Music Through Arts.
Yes.
And I think this is important to give back. So when I was a little kid and had gone to, first had those little music things in school and like, oh shit, man, maybe I should play trumpet. Let me try this. I go, no, I don't want to play trumpet. But I was already playing drums. But these kids need a shot, especially, in this state, especially in California. But, I tour all around the world and see unbelievable desire.
Yeah.
And this is not just drummers or bass players or guitar players or horn players. This could be with dancers, any sort of arts. And I think the arts are incredibly important and I think should be mandatory.
Yes.
In school. So this is so for everybody that buys a book of King of the Groove, there'll be a donation made.
That's amazing. And so tell me a little bit more about that. Like, how does it work? How does the foundation work?
The foundation is been recently restructured.
Yes.
And the foundation is still newer.
Yes.
So once in the state of California, it's interesting. This is about being an entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah.
501Cs.
Yep.
So who knew what those were?
Yeah.
And so I studied, I have multiple corporations. So that's a corporation.
Yep.
Is where it's all charitable.
Nonprofit organization.
Nonprofit corporations.
Yeah.
So I don't make anything.
Yeah.
Now, when this thing gets big, of course, you're going to have a staff.
Yeah.
So my goal would be to have similar concepts, but I mean, it's art-based driven, which could be necessarily limited.
Yeah.
Whereas I work with David Foster and his foundation, which is about organ transplants for children.
Amazing.
That's some big stuff.
Yeah.
So you have a big contributor. So the goal is to build up enough funds that then I can pick and choose, or people come to us about their needs.
Amazing.
Like, okay, wow, listen, this little Billy in this thing, he needs a guitar.
Yeah.
All right, so we go to Fender.
Yeah.
Or we need a drums, or we go to DW or PDP or Slingerland or wherever we go, or we go to cymbals or this.
That's beautiful.
Or
man.
we're going to add a concept of dance with music,
Yes.
like we've done in college.
Yeah.
But I didn't do that in Iowa.
Yeah.
Now it's amazing. And I think Music Through Arts creates a better rounded world balance for children.
Oh, that's amazing.
Instead of all this other crap that they're being, subjected to.
This is something I care a lot about too. Like we have our company school gig, which maybe we can do something with
That would be fantastic.
together because just the focus is just getting more artists teaching in schools. Like just get more music teachers, more arts teachers. Because I know like that was all I cared about in school. I was like, I don't care about biology or chemistry, or I just want to play drums and I just want to be taught drums.
You know what's funny is that I was a science nut.
Wow.
My dad was a chemistry major at Duke and all this stuff. So I was really good in sciences and maths. But I think that if I had not gone to Berkeley and gone to like the University of Iowa or friggin' Stanford, I probably could have never gotten into Stanford. I would have failed.
Yeah.
But when I see a young kid or a girl that has this desire to potentially play drums, I just remembered I just did a seminar at South Plains College in Texas.
Yeah.
And it's just I'm on their board. And there was a young girl that's in their program who was in the drum soloist category, but she just started playing drums and she was, I don't know, 18.
Wow.
Or 17 maybe. And it was really not good.
Yeah.
And I'm judging and I'm watching, but the thing that was good and better than all the other ones was she had the balls to sit there and have fun and smile.
Yeah. Amazing.
And her next time she does it, she's going to be that much better because she had the foresight and the initiative to get up. Well, I don't care what it is.
Yes.
And try it.
Amazing.
And you just never know you could be on Broadway.
Yeah.
You could be doing all this really hip stuff. So I appreciate that. And we will lock.
Let's lock. Well, you guys, October 1st, King of the Groove, John J.R. Robinson's book will be out. We're going to put links to where you can get it. And there's a launch event in Chicago.
Yeah, we're launching October 1st in Chicago with the Jerry Flippo and Allison Mang will be directing. We have a full-on crew. We're going to have multiple streaming. So wish me luck on that one. That's going to be and we've never done it. And the people I talk to, nobody does this. So you're either on one platform or another. So we're going to try to do multiple platforms. It may base through Zoom to start and then go out through OBS, as we well know.
Yes.
But it'll be a major thing is there may be call-in numbers on that, but there'll be surprise guests. And I'm going to be playing with a band and in and out, and we'll be talking stories and with Jerry Filippo.
Let's go. October 1st, King of the Groove, John J.R. Robinson.
Go with Elmo.
Let's go.